It's better to plan than predict. Are you planning for what you want to happen while preparing for what can happen? Are you staying disciplined and focused on your long-term goals so short-term events don't throw you off track? Did you know that simply missing the 25 best single days in the market from 1990 through 2001 would have decreased your annualized compound return by over 5%, according to Dimensional? That's less than 1 day a year. No one knows what the markets are going to do in the future except the markets themselves. Anyone who says otherwise is either trying to sell you something or is full of disclaimer. This content is not legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult a qualified professional regarding your personal situation. And with that, welcome back to another Money Not Math conversation. I'm so excited about today's conversation, and I appreciate those of you who are here with me today and or are listening in the future and take the time to listen, watch, and respond to this conversation. Please, leave a comment or send me a direct message with your thoughts or questions. I love that and appreciate it so much. And also, I appreciate any and all shares and likes as well, because my goal is to provide value to you. So the more people that you share this with, the more people I can hopefully provide value to. So again, let's jump into today's conversation. It's better to plan than predict. And with that, I'm actually going to share my screen here. I got a couple of videos that I'd like to share from Dimensional. That's a chart that I'll go over in a second here. So Dimensional came out here. It's again one of the companies that we leverage for building our custom portfolios for our clients. And this is one of the articles that they wrote. So when it comes to markets, it's better to plan than predict, featuring Gerard O'Reilly, who has a PhD and is a co-chief executive officer and chief investment officer of Dimensional. So like he says, don't focus on predicting what will happen, plan for what can happen. All right. And he says, rather than trying to predict what markets will do, investors should plan for a range of potential outcomes. And here's a video to go over that I'd love to share. So hopefully you are watching this, but if you're listening, hopefully the audio comes through clearly for you, and I'll stop talking.
Don't focus on predicting what will happen, plan for what can happen. Our expectation is that stocks will have positive returns, that lower credit quality bonds will outperform higher credit quality bonds, that inflation will be modest. That's our expectation. But we plan for what can happen. What can happen? Well, we can have much better than expected news and returns are strongly positive. We can have much worse than expected news and returns are strongly negative. Inflation can be higher than expected, lower than expected. Those are the things that can happen. And how do you plan for those things? Well, on the equity side, you diversify so that you're not too subject to the performance of one stock, one sector, one country. Last year's a perfect example. If you were heavy on technology, that was a bad outcome. If you had some energy stocks in your portfolio, that helped offset the poor returns of technology stocks, diversification across sectors. What about overall markets being down? Your asset allocation, plan for what can happen, an appropriate split between stocks and bonds. If news is better than expected, how do you plan for that? Stay focused, stay disciplined. If you lose your discipline and outcomes are better than expected, you're going to miss it. That can happen, plan for it. So you can plan for the good times, you can plan for the bad times. And what can happen is always a range of outcomes. And there's all types of ways to kind of mitigate the impact of a negative event or even a positive event on that range of outcomes to your overall investment returns.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. That was an extremely valuable video. Hopefully you caught some of what he said there. Couple things to address. First, an appropriate balance of equities, bonds, and etc. Far too often, I find people have a bunch of tools, but they don't have a strategy. For example, they have a 401k, an IRA, and some other account that are all heavily weighted in stocks and equities. So they don't actually have a diversification of like types of investments. They just have different accounts all invested the same way. All right. So now, if you're very far from retirement, you don't have to touch your money for a long time. That's probably okay. But as we near retirement, we have to have an appropriate balance of equities or stocks and exposure to risk in volatile markets and money set aside or a war chest of wealth that isn't affected by market volatility so that we are prepared for what can happen. Okay, that's number one, super important. Number two thing that he talked about there that's extremely important is the importance of understanding long-term goals of what can happen and how that affects short-term returns. So like I said, if you just missed the top 25 days, I'm going to pull up a chart here from Dimensional again, missed the top 25 days, single best days of the market from 1990 to 2021, your return during that time would have been about 5.55%. So $1,000 in 1990 would have grown to about $5,632 in 2021. If you missed 25 best single days, that's less than 1 day a year over those 30 plus years. Now, if you just put your money in the SP 500 index and just left it, didn't touch it over those 31 years, your $1,000 would have grown to $26,322. That's over $20,000 more because you didn't miss those 25 days. So 25 days, less than 1 day a year over 30 years could have cost this person hypothetically $20,000 of return, or 5x on their return, 5 times. So the annualized compound return of this index over that time period was 10.76%. Whereas if you miss the top 25 days, it's only 5.55%. Miss the top 15, 7.15%. Miss the top 5, 9.18%. And miss the single one best day, not a massive difference, 10.38% versus 10.76. So hopefully the video, along with this chart, along with what I've said, has helped you understand the value of not letting short-term events affect long-term goals and the ability to stay disciplined and focused on those goals, and helps you understand the importance of having an appropriate balance of stocks, bonds, and etc., other things. And that balance varies depending on where you are in your financial life and your financial, like how close you are to retirement and what your financial goals are. So it's no cookie cutter, like everyone should do this. It's based on you and your personal situation. All right. So with that, hopefully this conversation brings you value. Please let me know what you think. Like I said, the biggest, most important points I'm hoping you get from this is, are you planning for what you want to happen while preparing for what can happen? As Gerard O'Reilly said, don't focus on predicting what will happen, plan for what can happen. Are you staying disciplined and focused on your long-term goals so short-term events don't throw you off track? Or are you did you know that overreacting to short-term events could be the single worst thing you do to negatively impact your ability to reach your long-term goals? Did you know that simply missing the 25 best single days in the market from 1990 to 2021 would have decreased your annualized compound return by over 5%, or in this example, $20,000. So rather than having 25,000 plus thousand of growth, you'd have 5. All right. No one knows what the markets will do in the future except the markets themselves. Anyone who says otherwise is either trying to sell you something or is full of, you get the picture. All right. So please let me know what you think by commenting or reaching out directly. And like I said, I really genuinely appreciate anyone who's willing to share, like, and or comment on these posts. Thank you so much. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd. Hope everyone has a great day, and I look forward to golfing with many of you soon. Bye.